Hey folks, one thing that was great about being a Sonic fan in the 1990s was discussing who was the best robotic version of Sonic. The three main candidates were always Metal Sonic from Sonic CD, and these two guys from Sonic 2 and Sonic & Knuckles respectively. I always thought the middle guy was Silver Sonic and the last guy Mecha Sonic. Who was the coolest and what exactly each robot was called was a seemingly endless debate. Personally, I always had a soft spot for Mecha Sonic. In recent years, and particularly with the release of the Sonic Encyclopedia, I've come to learn that technically there are actually multiple iterations of Mecha Sonic, with the dude from Sonic & Knuckles being the third version of Mecha Sonic. There's actually a storied lineage of Mecha Sonic versions, and in this video I'm going to collate them all and talk about 4 robots, each representing a different version of Mecha Sonic. The Encyclopedia isn't to be taken as gospel though, and it does contain some lore errors. But at the end of the day, the name of all of these robots has been in flux since their creation, so if you disagree with anything in this video, that's cool. A lot of these robots had different names in different regions and different forms of media, so it can get a little confusing. Without further ado, let's dive into the very first version of Mecha Sonic. Let's begin by talking about this guy. He first appeared in Sonic 2 for the Sega Master System, a game which was released a month before the more popular Mega Drive version. The European manual for the game describes him as Silver Sonic, while the Japanese manual describes him as Mecha Sonic. It's anybody's guess which is correct, so I say they're both fine. For the purposes of this video though, let's assume he is Mecha Sonic Mark 0. A kind of prototype for later, more advanced Mecha Sonic models. Visually, I've always found this iteration of Mecha to be kind of cute. With a bright silver body, yellow details, and a Geordie LaForge style visor, he's endearing rather than intimidating. In the Master System version of Sonic 2, he's not particularly important either. He's one of 5 master robots created by Dr. Robotnik to eliminate Sonic while Robotnik holds Tails captive. Mark 0 serves as the penultimate challenge of the game, the boss of Scrambled Egg Zone, which by the way is an awesome zone name. It does make it seem like Mark 0 is the most important, or at least the most trusted, of the 5 master robots. In terms of attacks, Mark 0 has the ability to spin dash, to ricochet off walls, to charge with his turbo boots, and he also has extendable arms which can be used offensively too. When defeated, Mark 0 blows up and leaves behind a Chaos Emerald. I'm not entirely sure how he came into possession of one, but there you go. Because the Master System version of Sonic 2 is much less popular than the Mega Drive version, and for good reason I might add, this iteration of Mecha became the forgotten Sonic robot over the years. That is, until he returned over 15 years later when he reappeared in Sonic Mania. In the first phase of the Metal Sonic fight that occurs at the end of Stardust Speedway Zone, Mark 0 appears as a miniature sub-boss with all of his classic moves intact. Sonic needs to use Mecha's ricocheting qualities and fire him right into Metal Sonic above. By the way, bonus fact, the Encyclopedia has confirmed that this scene is a nod to the Brotherhood of the Metallics from the British Sonic the Comic. Believe me, we'll be talking about those guys more at some point in the future. This version of Mecha, dubbed Prototype Silver Sonic, appeared in a flashback scene in one of the later Archie comic books battling Sonic in Scrambled Egg Zone. He also made a cheeky little appearance in the IDW comic books too. He appeared on a TV screen in the 30th anniversary book. Fairly hard to recognise unless you're all caught up on your Sonic lore. I kind of like the idea of this guy being a prototype for later models because, in reality, he's kinda lame and not very intimidating or effective. Archie deemed him Prototype Silver Sonic, that's why I feel like a name like Mecha Sonic Mark 0 kinda works as well. Next stop, let's talk about this guy. Now, I always used to refer to him as Silver Sonic. He goes unnamed in the US and European manuals for the game, meaning in the West his name was always open to interpretation. The American Archie comics always referred to him as Silver Sonic, which I assume is why that particular name for him stuck over the years. In reality though, I think this guy is Mecha Sonic. The first time I remember hearing that name for him was in 2021, when a Jakks Pacific figure released under the name Mechasonic. There was a brief bit of discussion about this at the time, but Mechasonic has been his name in Japan since his creation. Looking at concept art of him drawn by Yasushi Yamaguchi, he has an MS on his arm, referring to Mechasonic, and a nod to Mechagodzilla, who served as this guy's inspiration. The Encyclopedia further corroborates the Mechasonic name, so I'm happy to accept it. If this little guy was Prototype Mecha or Mechasonic Mark 0, then this guy is Mechasonic Mark 1. The design for Mark 1 is definitely more menacing than Mark 0. With a black and red visor and a clunky, bolted-on looking metallic body, Mark 1 looks sufficiently intense. This version of Mecha first appeared in the final zone of Sonic the Hedgehog 2 for the Sega Mega Drive, the Death Egg Zone. Mark 1 is incredibly tricky because Death Egg Zone doesn't offer the players any rings at all, meaning one solitary hit and Sonic loses a life. Mark 1 has a variety of attacks. He spin dashes, uses the jets in his robotic feet to charge across the room, and has the ability to fire out a bunch of spiked projectiles. His spines also make an awesome buzzsaw kind of sound before he attacks. There's a brief window of opportunity after each one of Mark 1's attacks where he's vulnerable to being attacked himself. He was the bane of my existence as a kid because he's tough and frankly quite intimidating, but he has a predetermined attack pattern. So all you really need to do is get to this stage of the game with enough lives, and with a little bit of memorization, you should be able to deal with him. When defeated, he'll explode on the spot. Mark 1 also appeared in Gale Rider in 1994, the Sega Saturn version of Radmobile, appearing as one of the game's little Sonic keychains that you can see dangling under the rearview mirror. Neat. Mark 1 reappeared much later as a boss in Sonic Pocket Adventure, a handheld Neo Geo Pocket Color game from 1999. It's kind of a pastiche of early 90s Sonic games. Mecha appears as the boss of the penultimate zone, Aerobase Zone. He has a more limited cachet of moves this time around, and interestingly has a kind of slumped posture and electrical meltdown when he's defeated, a pose we'll see again soon in another robot. After the boss fight, Mark 1 will rise and crash through a wall, seemingly exploding again in the process and creating a passageway to the game's final zone. Mark 1 also makes a delightful appearance in the LEGO Dimensions Sonic DLC from 2016. Mark 1 looks pretty damn cool as a LEGO minifig, I have to say. He fights with his signature spin dash move. The interesting thing about LEGO Dimensions is that it refers to Mark 1 as Robo-Sonic. He appears as the first of 3 robotic Sonics that you have to fight back to back, followed by Mechasonic from Sonic & Knuckles and Metal Sonic. I guess the Robo-Sonic name helps to differentiate him in this case. In what proved to be another pleasant surprise, Mark 1 appeared in Mario & Sonic at the Olympic Games Tokyo 2020 for the Nintendo Switch in the Tokyo Skyflight minigame. Mark 1 appears as the boss of Stage 2 with a similar moveset and again explodes after defeat. This version of Mechasonic has appeared in comics the world over. Over in Japan, Mark 1 makes a brief appearance in one volume of the early 90s Shogakukan manga, protecting the Death Egg just like in Sonic 2, and he looks pretty awesome. Similarly, Mark 1 also fulfills the same role in the UK Sonic the Comic in their adaptation of the Sonic 2 story, though this version is damn ugly. Now, over in America, multiple versions of this robot appeared in the Archie books. In the earlier Archie comics, Silver Sonic version 1.0 debuted in the 1996 Sonic Quest miniseries, which served as a kind of loose adaptation of the stories of Sonic 2, Sonic 3 and Sonic & Knuckles. Version 1.0 once again acted as the Death Egg's defender, but he was gigantic, towering over Sonic. In the game, Mark 1 was admittedly significantly larger than Sonic, but Archie really accentuated that trait. Version 1.0 was easily defeated by Sonic thanks to some exposed electrical wires. After that, Sonic even used the body of version 1.0 as armor to fight Dr. Robotnik. Much later, during the comic's Sonic Adventure adaptation, Silver Sonic version 2.0 debuted. this time based off the unnamed Sonic robot that appears in a tube in Sonic Adventure. Version 2.0 battles Sonic and the gang a couple of times, including at Station Square, but he's destroyed for good by Shadow the Hedgehog, who uses the Chaos Control technique on him. Silver Sonic version 3.0, whose size and design were a throwback to version 1.0, also appeared years later too. Much bigger than Sonic, he served the same purpose as version 1.0, protector of a later version of one of Robotnik's Death Eggs. Version 3.0 was seemingly destroyed by Sally Acorn, but he managed to rebuild himself in Feral Forest, leading to Silver Sonic version 3.1. This was all before the Super Genesis Wave event happened, which I believe was a timeline resetting event designed to purge the comic of any Ken Penders creations. After that happened, we got another version of Silver Sonic crop up, which kind of looked like it was based on Silver Sonic version 3.0. This guy had the dishonor of being destroyed by Big the Cat and Rota the Walrus. What a combination. I'm gonna be a little boring and say that the best Archie version of Mark II was the one that appeared in the second to last issue before the comic's cancellation. It really captured the essence of the game version perfectly. Let's move on to the main event of this video, my personal favourite robotic version of Sonic. Slightly taller than Sonic with a deep blue paint job and cool visor, this guy is the real deal. Despite having a few different names in different pieces of media, it's always generally been accepted that this guy is Mecha Sonic. The Encyclopedia confirmed that this version is Mecha Mark II, an iteration on the robot that appeared in Sonic 2. He made his debut in 1994 in Sonic & Knuckles. When you play through as Sonic, you first meet Mecha Mark II in Sky Sanctuary Zone, and end up facing him in 3 different boss fights. The first part of the boss fight is a throwback to Robotnik's very first appearance in Green Hill Zone, complete with dual platforms and swinging ball. The second is a throwback to the boss in Metropolis Zone from Sonic 2, complete with inflatable Mecha Sonics. The final fight is a one-on-one matchup. It's similar to, but a lot easier than, the Sonic vs Mecha clash from Sonic 2. When Mecha is defeated, he'll slump on the ground buzzing with electricity while Sky Sanctuary collapses around him. The awesome thing about Sonic & Knuckles is that Knuckles' story takes place after Sonic's. After Robotnik has been defeated and order restored to the floating island, we pick up with Knuckles relaxing for a while until the floating island is threatened again by one of Robotnik's Egg Robo Badniks, who bombs Knuckles. At some point during Knuckles' adventure, the Master Emerald is stolen again and ends up in a part of Sky Sanctuary Zone overlooking the floating island. When Knuckles makes his way there, he's captured by Egg Robo and then violently greeted by Mark II, who accidentally destroys Egg Robo while trying to take out Knuckles. I always loved this as a kid. Mark II was able to survive his fight with Sonic and the partial destruction of Sky Sanctuary Zone. How badass! The ensuing Knuckles vs Mecha fight plays out in 2 halves. The first battle mimics Sonic's battle with Mark II, and then Mecha jumps onto the Master Emerald and uses its chaos energy to transform into Super Mecha Sonic, temporarily turning golden and gaining the ability of flight before requiring a recharge from the Master Emerald. This is pretty awesome, but it's highly unusual. Most super forms in the series are achieved via the Chaos Emeralds, not the Master Emerald itself. Plus, Mecha's super form doesn't seem to rely on rings, he needs to recharge himself every few seconds. When Knuckles defeats Super Mecha Sonic, Mecha explodes once and for all, making him the canonical final boss in Sonic 3 and Knuckles. As you all seem to enjoy my Pink Knuckles video, where I discuss a weird palette discrepancy, here's a little palette mishap for Mecha Sonic 2. Mark II actually has 2 palettes in the game, his default palette, and a palette that only applies to him during the Metropolis Zone style boss fight, which is significantly more purple than his usual palette. I guess he got a new lick of paint. Mark II also makes a little appearance in the Blue Sphere game that becomes playable when you lock your Sonic & Knuckles cart onto some compatible game. He appears on the difficulty screen, and guess what? He has a slightly different palette to either one of his 2 other palettes. Madness! Mark II also appears in Gale Rider as a keychain, and as a boss immediately following Robo-Sonic or Mecha Mark 1 in LEGO Dimensions 2 as I mentioned earlier. He's got a similar attack repertoire as Mark 1, but also has the ability to fire off some projectiles too. Also, Mecha Mark 2 makes an appearance in the Sonic the Hedgehog Minecraft DLC too, as one of the skins included in the game. Metal Sonic and Metal Knuckles are also available as well, but no Mecha Mark 1, which is kind of disappointing, but I love Mark 2 getting some recent love. Now there's one aspect of Mark 2's design that's always bugged me. When he jumps on the Master Emerald, he exposes what I always assumed was some sort of chest cavity. But on closer inspection, I actually think this is Mecha Sonic's eye. I have to give people on Reddit and Twitter some credit for this because they first brought it to my attention. You see, Mecha has this light that shines out of his visor. When he jumps on the Emerald to power up, it seems like his chest lowers down, his helmet goes up, and his eyeball, I guess, is exposed. It's kind of weird looking. The sprite work doesn't really do it justice, so here's an artist's interpretation as to what's going on. You'll never look at him the same way again. Now this isn't confirmed, and when you look at LEGO or Minecraft, it does appear as if Mecha Sonic has two lights, one in his visor and one in his chest, but I can't deny the evidence. When you look at Mecha's sprite sheet, his eye stays on the same level in all of these poses, so I guess he's just got a giant robotic eyeball in his chest. Mark 2 features in the Fleetway comics, though he looked much cooler than Mark 1. In the comics adaptation of the storyline of Sonic and Knuckles, Mark 2 steals the Master Emerald on behalf of Dr. Robotnik and uses it to power up, overwhelming both Sonic and Knuckles. In the scuffle, Mecha knocks Sonic into the Master Emerald, triggering Sonic's transformation into the psychotic Super Sonic, who quite easily dismantles Mecha. He's never seen again. In the Archie comics, Mecha Sonic is the name given to the roboticized version of Sonic. It's obvious that the Sonic and Knuckles robot somewhat inspired Archie's Mecha Sonic, but I'm not a huge fan of his design in all honesty, so you'll have to excuse me for skirting over this guy a little. A more game-accurate version of Mark II makes a single, lonely, one-panel appearance in one of the later Archie comics. A fully fledged version of Mark II was due to appear in Archie Sonic issue number 291, but this never came to pass. The comic's last issue would end up being issue 290, an adaptation of Sonic CD. Mark II is also mentioned, though sadly not featured, in IDW's 30th anniversary comic book too. Well, that brings us on, finally, to this guy, the unnamed Sonic robot that appears in a stasis tube in Eggman's base in Sonic Adventure. This guy is shrouded in mystery. Was he intended to play a bigger role in that game? Or was he thrown in merely as a little Easter egg? Either way, I think he looks awesome. Of course, Archie deemed him a successor to Sonic 2's version of Mecha, and that's quite fitting. Not so long ago, another excellent YouTuber, the Game Apologist, made a video about this guy, and thanks to a comment from Jason Jimerson, concluded that he was based on Mechagodzilla. There's lots of similarities between these two robots. Now, considering the Encyclopedia says that this guy is Mecha Mark 1 and this guy is Mecha Mark 2, does that mean that the Sonic Adventure unnamed robot is perhaps Mecha Mark 3? I'd like to think so. That means that from the game's perspective, there's a cool lineage of mecha robots, 4 different iterations. Who's your favourite? Wow, we covered a lot of ground in this video. Thank you all for watching all the way until the end. I'd like to extend a special thank you to everyone who requested I cover any version of Mecha Sonic. It was a great suggestion because it was a lot of fun to collect all of this info together. If you have a character you'd love me to cover in the future, please do leave a comment and let me know. I've got a growing playlist of character profiles, so check that out too. There's plenty of characters from the classic games like Team Hooligan, and from the British comics like Super Sonic, but I'm open to suggestions from any era and any form of media. Thanks, and hopefully, I'll see you next time.